We didn't say who was taking the lead.
I thought you were. I pressed the button. You take the lead.
Oh, I guess I'm taking the lead. Hi, everyone. I must say we're having a good time today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is our What's New and Coming Up with Lipedema, but you know what it really is? It's a time for Siobhan and I to giggle together. There isn't anyone on the planet that can make me laugh like Siobhan does. It's really fun. So, we are here to talk about what's going on, and there's some stuff really going on. Dr. Carmody and I are doing a webinar on Sunday. And do you want to know why we're doing it on Sunday? Sunday
I
is
sure do.
a special day. Sunday is Groundhog Day.
Ah.
Uh, from the time that's my all-time favorite movie. Whenever I'm feeling kind of down or blue or kind of yucky, I'll pull out Groundhog Day and watch it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a spiritual movie. Hi, Becky. Let's see who else is there. Hi, Becky. Nice to see you.
Yes, and if you are watching, please leave a comment in the chat with who you are, what your name is, where you're coming from, what you had for breakfast, what your comfort movie is, whatever you feel like sharing.
So, as I was saying, mine is Groundhog Day. Still remember I saw Groundhog Day in the movie theater. It's got to be at least 20 or 25 years ago with my nephew. At the time, my nephew was a young nephew. He's 45 now. So back then he was like a young teenager. And the two of us danced out of the theater. We literally just did this whole routine out of the theater because we love the movie so much. And to me, it's the most spiritual movie there is because you got to keep doing it until you get it right. I feel like, oh, my life is just a series of patchwork quilts like Groundhog Day. Very, very funny. And um, speaking of Groundhog Day, Dr. Carmody and I are doing a lipedema webinar on Sunday at 2. So please do join us. I'm going to go grab the link and put it in the chat.
I already did. I'm way ahead of you.
Thank God you're way ahead of me.
So, for those who've been with us for a while, you might already have the link in your bookmarks bar or wherever you have it. It's our evergreen link, learn.lipedema-simplified.org/free-webinar. So if you don't already have it bookmarked, I would recommend it because we do add new stuff to that link pretty frequently. We pull things out and put stuff in so that you have one easy place to go to and you don't have to collect up links or keep track of them.
I got a call today from this woman, and oh my God, I just like she was so distraught. And she was distraught because she couldn't find anybody, any doctors who knew about lipedema. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much the way things are. And she was like, she kept getting more and more freaked out. And I said, yeah, I understand. And I invited her to the webinar. And she said, well, no, I don't want to come. I don't want to hear what I've already heard. I want, basically, she said, I want surgery. I want
Mm.
surgery. How am I going to find a doctor? How do I find a surgeon? How do I find it? So I invited her to a surgery one. But the thing that I really want to talk about is how difficult it can be when you know that you should be getting care in the healthcare system and it's not there for you. I I was talking to my doctor today about it. Um, when I long story. If you've been around for a while, you know that I've had an obstructed thoracic duct, and they did surgery through my neck into my what do they call that artery there?
Carotid artery. You had it right.
Yeah, carotid artery. So they did a whole thing, and it was a pretty major surgery. I thought it was going to, I always think it's going to be no big deal. And then I go through it and I'm like wiped out and I can't move. And oh my God. So the other side of it is they don't keep you in the hospital very long these days. They cut you up, they sew you up, and they say goodbye. Well, they did a follow up call. I said they got to do a follow up call. Major surgery here. It was a robocall. It was a call where they automated it, and they said, "Well, we see that you had surgery here at the hospital yesterday, and we're calling to check in to see how you're feeling. If you feel okay, press 1. If you don't feel okay, press 2." Anyway, it was really funny. I could all I could do was laugh. So that's why we do what we do. That's one of the reasons why we provide a quality of precision and knowledge to the best of our ability, because we really do believe that in order to care for yourself, to care for what you need in terms of living with a chronic disease, you need to have information. Right, Siobhan?
Yes, yes, I agree. In terms of doctors knowing about lipedema, not knowing about lipedema, some of it is going to have to come from the community. In terms of, if their doctor is curious, feel free to send them our way. We'll be happy to give them as much information as they can possibly handle, give them support, give them access to the latest information. We already have some doctors who have reached out to us and are interested in learning. And there are some doctors out there who have gone out of their way to learn on their own. Dr. Tro, for example, and Dr. Brian Linskis both diagnosed lipedema, are learning about lipedema. So, but this is the thing about diseases and conditions and whatever it is that are newer on the board and we're still learning about them, is that it does tend to be a grassroots movement of what's the best treatment, how do we get doctors on board, how do we get them interested. And one thing that really motivates doctors is understanding that there is stuff that they can do to help support their patient and that their patient can get better. That is like the number one thing for a lot of doctors of, oh, there's something you can do about it. Okay, I want to learn about this because I want to help my patients.
Yeah, that's so remarkable. Dr. Carmody used to talk about that when I would ask him what it was about obesity where it was so poorly treated. And his response was very similar to what you just said, is that there's just such a low success rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I get it. I do get
Yeah.
it.
And just like patients get frustrated when they try things and they don't work, doctors are the same exact way.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, in terms of interventions not being very successful with obesity or even long term diabetes management, of people getting worse and worse over time, is that it degrades the doctor patient relationship as well, where patients are losing faith in doctors and doctors are getting jaded. They're teaching themselves not to care, and it's damaging. So I think as we move forward, not only with lipedema care, but obesity and diabetes and metabolic health care in general, it's going to have to be rebuilding that relationship and teaching both patients and doctors that there are things that we can do to feel better and get healthier. But it's a long, long road, I suspect.
Yeah, I think that's really well stated. It really isn't a purposeful lack of attention. It's more building of distrust over time that
Yeah.
seems to be needing addressing. So, um,
So, if anybody has a doctor who would like a one-on-one or one-on-one, I guess, on lipedema, feel free to send them that webinar. It is completely free, and knowing doctors, they often don't have a lot of time. But if people sign up for the webinars, they do get access to the recordings later, so they can at least get a quick briefing on things, get some questions answered, and have a solid place to put their foot for the first step.
I I hope this is a sign. My cat just climbed up on my. There she is. She just climbed up and is purring away. I love when she does that. Absolutely love it. So speaking of purring cats, I want to talk about our surgery thing coming up. You
What?
know,
Wait, hold on. How did those two things relate? What is that segue?
I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Okay, so sometimes after you get surgery, your cat comes and purrs on you. So speaking of purring cats and surgery,
Yes. Well, mostly that. What we're all looking for is the purring cat. I mean, or some version of it. It's like to know that everything is going to be okay.
mm-hmm,
I think that when Bella comes up and she climbs up here and she lies across me and in front of the computer and purrs away, what she's really doing is asking me to give her food. But I can interpret it to like be like things are okay in the universe. That things are going to be taken care of. And one of the things that I still think is a bit miraculous is that we even have insurance companies that are covering and the that are covering um, the surgeries these days. And
mm-hmm,
so that's something that people should know. Anyway, we have a 3-day webinar, not webinar. We have a 3-day event coming up the end of April that we're going to be talking about not only surgery, because it isn't just surgery, it's only one part of what is a multiplex approach to listening to, and working with our bodies.
mm-hmm. Yeah, the way that I've been thinking about it is a holistic view to approaching surgery. So, not just the surgery itself, what are the best practices? What is it even doing? What are realistic expectations if you're thinking about it? But everything leading up to the surgery and everything that's going to have to come after the surgery. So, not just post operative care, but what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Because surgery is not curative. We know that. It can be very helpful to some people. Some others decide it's not going to add enough quality of life for them to consider it, too much cost, whatever it is. Um, but we still need to do the conservative care afterwards. And there's a lot that can come beforehand as well to prepare someone for surgery or even to see if they even need it in the first place. Because a lot of people, I think, consider surgery first,
Mhm.
but if they implement conservative care, some people say, oh, actually, I've regained my mobility, I don't have pain anymore. I found that a lot of symptoms are well under control just with that, and decide that it's not actually an intervention that they needed to be helpful. So, talking about all of those things, what are the kind of questions that people should be asking? What other things can we do and try first? Because I would say the leading best practice surgeon does not consider surgery as a first resort. It is after you've tried all the conservative care. If you're still having issues, then we look at surgery as an option to help with certain issues. Not all the issues, but certain issues.
That's so important. When so I started at the very beginning, and at the very beginning, we had no idea what was going to work, what wasn't going to work. And I thought surgery would be a magic bullet.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I've been dealing with this for, at that time, it was over 60 years. I've had enough. Just get the cannula, take out this stuff, and let me go and live my life. It didn't work that way.
Yeah.
It's like you really do learn that lipedema deserves its due. That
Mm-hmm.
it really does take time and attention and deep listening. deep listening in order to get to where at least my body needs to be. And it's still in the process. Yeah. It's definitely challenging.
Yeah.
Definitely challenging. But, and I often think, I used to think to myself, if I had my druthers, would I do this differently? What if I could skip it entirely? But I've gotten so much from having interacted with a global community. Um,
Hmm.
I feel like we've learned so much from each other that,
Yeah, and the thing is, it doesn't just apply to lipedema. For one, because people with lipedema often aren't just dealing with lipedema, but because the holistic approach encompasses every aspect of somebody's life. So whether you're dealing with obesity or lymphedema on top of lipedema, all of this stuff, depression, anxiety, all of these different things, when you're working through issues that are related to lipedema, you end up focusing on a whole lot of other things, and people can find that their life drastically improves because of the care that they're getting that they sought out only because of lipedema symptoms, which is kind of interesting. It's an actual care model instead of a sickness model,
yeah.
which I find a lot of people end up falling into.
Oh, yeah. And I want to emphasize because you mentioned depression and anxiety. And one of the things that I wasn't aware of, or I was less aware of, is that there's such a mindset or a
Hmm.
mental um, imprint, if you will, around having a chronic disease. And and it brings with it its own way of thinking and being, and oftentimes self not happy.
Hmm.
We fill in the blank. Self
Yeah.
not happy.
Self blame,
Yeah,
self loathing, self criticizing, all sorts of things. But I think on some level, like all of those things are things that everybody experiences. So, I mean, learning to live with a chronic disease is mostly just learning how to live in general as a human being, which I find comforting because, like, I personally don't ever want to end up in a situation where I feel like I'm like in a situation where I'm like self-victimizing almost, or like self-defeating, or I'm dealing with this, so why bother?
yeah,
And instead just getting into this mindset of I'm a human being living my life, and there is no single person in the entire world who has a perfect life and no issues and nothing that they need to work on. It does not exist. So we're all doing the same thing.
yep. We all have our own issues. Oh, that's really interesting. Becky made a good comment. I'm going to put it up.
Hmm.
Doctor said I had chronic condition fatigue. That's so true. It is difficult to squeeze in all the self care when working full time. That is
Absolutely.
so true, Becky. There is a certain level of fatigue that comes with having any kind of chronic condition, and especially one, well, for me, it's because it's disfiguring. Um,
Hmm.
not to others, but to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's why we focus so much on things like our arts and crafts group, is
Mm,
because like you have to actually schedule in relaxation time and hobby time, or at least for some people it's very easy to say, well, this isn't as important because I have all this self-care stuff that I need to do. I have to wear compression and use my pump and go to the pool and go to MLD and exercise and all this different stuff, so there's just no time. And if you end up doing that, it can be extremely easy to burn out, and then you're not getting anything done.
yeah.
So scheduling it in is a very nice trick. And Becky did follow up. She said, I had to learn to live as a person with lipedema rather than allowing lipedema to control my life. Absolutely.
Oh, that's good.
So, not living life to manage lipedema, but managing lipedema so you can live your life. That is my perspective, at least.
Oh, I like that a lot. Well, we again just our what's coming up is the workshop, the free webinar with Dr. Carmody. Come join us. It's also the weekend, though wherever you are, it might be another day. But right now, it's Friday afternoon, which is the
Mm-hmm.
perfect time to curl up like a rug and a bug, a bug and rug. Yeah, curl
One
up.
of those.
Yeah, curl up like a bug in the rug, like in a fetal position, and just it's my favorite. But ladies, I'm definitely in my. I had this conversation with my doctor today. It's like, I came here and I was young, and now I'm old, and I just came 6 months ago. 6 months ago, I was young. It's so funny. Anyway, I just turned 76. There's something about that just went boing. And also dealing with lymphatic issues for years now. So, but I am very, very, very blessed and grateful. So, thank you.
All right. We will see everyone next week, or we'll see you Sunday if you end up coming to the webinar. And just remember, if you can't be there live, go ahead and sign up for it, and you'll get the recording, and then we can talk about it next Friday.
Oh,
All
that
right.
sounds great. Thanks, Siobhan.
Yeah. Bye bye, everybody.